Today on the official Marvel podcast, we hear from Marvel Animation's Eyes of Wakanda executive producer Ryan Coogler.
It was always a dream of mine to make an animated show like this, and I think we really blew the doors off of this one.
Plus, we hear from Talon Warburton, who plays Absorbing Man in the new Disney Junior series, Marvel's Iron Man and His Awesome Friends.
So with Absorbing Man, it was kind of an experimental process, so I was trying different voices, different layers. I knew the kind of spirit I wanted to give him. It was kind of smiling chaos.
And to round things out, we've got a comic book deep dive for you on Amadeus Cho, aka Brawn.
I'm Evan Narcissus.
I'm Anthony Carboni.
And this is the official Marvel podcast.
You don't need me to tell you that Ryan Coogler is an esteemed filmmaker. He's worked on Marvel Studios projects like Black Panther and Black Panther Wakanda Forever, and he's served as executive producer for Marvel Television's Ironheart. And earlier this month, we saw the debut of his first project with Marvel Animation, Eyes of Wakanda.
Despite this being his first Marvel Animation project, he's been a longtime fan of Marvel's animation history. In fact, his early Marvel fandom stemmed from his encounters with Saturday morning cartoons. Here's Ryan on how he became a Marvel fan.
I got into Marvel through my older cousin, Jamon. My cousin was just so big on X-Men. Everything that was related to X-Men or was kind of similar to X-Men, like from Generation X and all of the offshoots, the Wolverine offshoots, Weapon X and X Factor. And I had, so my cousin would have them, so then I had them and I got into them. My dad also is an artist, and he would buy local comic books and like black-owned comic books, and he would have those around the house. Then the cartoons that were being made was also something that got me into him in the 90s. You had the X-Men cartoon, which was brilliant, but you also had the Spider-Man cartoon, the animated series, which was also great. And then you had Iron Man had a run where he had his own cartoon. The Incredible Hulk had a run when he had his own cartoon. And that was just the era, man. Like, we came up in that. So it was always a dream of mine to make an animated show like this. And I think we really blew the doors off of this one.
Ryan's love for those Marvel animated series from the 90s was something that he shared and bonded over with Eyes of Wakanda showrunner Todd Harris.
Over my history of working with Marvel Studios, I had the incredible opportunity to work with some great storyboard artists and storytellers in the visual medium. And among the great ones I've worked with, Todd Harris was among the top. He had an incredible story sense and a love for animation that we connected on. And we had the opportunity to build out an incredible show that explores some of the unknown histories of Wakanda in the MCU through the means of animation.
Marvel Studios head of television, streaming, and animation, Brad Winderbaum, also helped shepherd the show along since it was first pitched. Here's Brad on Eyes of Wakanda and its place in Wakandan lore and history.
Longtime storyboard artist Todd Harris pitched Ryan Coogler a show a number of years ago, and we are excited to say it's finally coming to fruition. In a 4-part series, we look at the history of Wakanda as told through the eyes of the War Dogs. And as you know from the films, the War Dogs are an elite group of people from Wakanda that go out into the world and try to protect Wakanda by identifying threats to the nation and the outside. They're kind of like Wakanda's CIA. And we see them at different eras and all the Wakandan history in between as these amazing, iconic characters go out into the outside world beyond Wakandan walls to try to get back vibranium items that have been lost over the years.
Eyes of Wakanda also features a unique take on animation as it explores a more stylistic approach to its overall aesthetic.
The style of animation is this beautiful, painterly style. It's like nothing I've ever seen before. The way they use soft light, the way the characters are articulated, it's really this whole world that's opened up to us in this new beautiful painterly style.
But don't just take Brad's word for it. Explore the history of Wakanda for yourself. Marvel Animation's Eyes of Wakanda is now streaming only on Disney+.
If you have a little one at home, you might be familiar with a show called Marvel's Spidey and His Amazing Friends. And last week, we saw the addition of even more superhero action for preschoolers with Marvel's Iron Man and His Awesome Friends.
That's right. And to discover more about this new series, friend and fellow official Marvel podcast co-host Victoria Ying sat down with the voice of Absorbing Man, Talon Warburton. Take a listen.
I'm joined by actor Talon Warburton. So glad to have you on. How did you come to this project?
Well, I got the audition from my agency, and when I was reading the breakdown for the character, I knew this was like a show for the youngins, so there's a certain exaggerated reality to that, I wanted to bring to it, and he seemed very big and boisterous and silly, and the first thing that came to mind was kind of my father, but I didn't want to do directly. I could do a pretty gosh darn good impersonation of my father. He kind of ended up being if my dad had 12 cups of coffee.
It's great that you had that personal connection to that character. Your dad, of course, is Patrick Warburton, who Disney fans probably know from The Emperor's New Groove. Plus, he even made appearances on Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Were you a Marvel fan beforehand? If so, do you remember what your earliest exposure to the Marvel Universe was?
I was a Marvel fan beforehand. My earliest exposure was probably the animated, like X-Men. I've always been a big animation guy. I still am. So I do a lot of voice. So that works out well. I really went full Marvel when like Iron Man, Thor, Captain America came out. I was definitely one of like the midnight showing people in high school. I distinctly remember when I think it was my senior year, two of my dearest friends, I think it was around Halloween, they went to the little kids costume section. You have basically these two full-grown men wearing this skin-tight Iron Man and Captain America with like the little plastic face mask. It was for the Avengers. It was fantastic, fantastic movie.
Yeah, agreed. But I love the visual. So Marvel's Iron Man and His Awesome Friends is Disney Junior's first preschool Iron Man series. What's the show about?
The show is about the first important lessons to learn when you're a tiny baby human. How to share, how to be kind to others, how to be considerate, how to be a good friend. And, I help teach what not to do. Like, maybe don't take something that's not yours. I teach what not to do.
Well, in that same vein, can you tell us about your role as Absorbing Man?
Well, I feel like he's limitless potential, but he doesn't realize that yet. The ability to absorb whatever you come into physical contact with. That seems quite powerful, but he holds himself back. I think by the nature he takes. And, without spoiling too much, that's a lot of what he does. He takes, and he always gets caught because crime doesn't pay, gosh darn it. He's not so big where he's not afraid to, when he gets a little bit too in over his britches to ask for help from Iron Man and his awesome friends.
So without any spoilers, can you tease what kind of adventures are in store for your character as they go up against Iron Man and his awesome friends?
When you can absorb all sorts of fun materials, you can end up in all sorts of different amazing locales. Maybe some are far, far colder than others. Maybe some has a lot less gravity than others. There's very high stakes in low gravity sometimes, maybe not. There's quite the range from little festivals to maybe the mall and a lot of stealing. A lot of stealing.
So the animation looks, awesome in the show. Did you get to check out any of the production art before recording?
I did a little bit on the way. And so when I had the joy of finally seeing him in action, I just had the biggest smile on my face. Animation, I adore because it's such a collaborative effort. It's a team effort. You have the amazing animators, you have the writers, you have the directors, you have the voice actors, and so many people in between that come together for this final product. So it's really cool to see all those pieces of the puzzle coming together, and to be able to be a part of that is a tremendous honor, especially for Marvel, which is something that's made such an impact on me becoming an actor and just even as an adult now. I can't wait to show my little one.
Well, I'm so glad you brought up your son. What does it mean to be able to share the series with your son?
It's a very unique sensation, I would imagine. It's something that I kind of grew up with on the other end. My father's in the industry as well. And, watching some of his shows growing up was such I guess I kind of took it for granted as a kid, but I feel it's a wonderful, very rare gift to be able to do something like that. So I feel very grateful for that opportunity.
Oh, can you take us through your voice acting process for this role?
Well, I think the most important thing first is perspective. It's like, well, who am I talking to? And then understanding that voices are just layers upon like the actual acting. And voice acting for a children's show, like a young children's show, is a unique challenge because it still has to be somewhat grounded, and you have to have that intent, but it's still kind of a hyper reality because most people don't really talk like that. And so with Absorbing Man, it was kind of an experimental process, so I was trying different voices, different layers. I knew the kind of spirit I wanted to give him. It was kind of smiling chaos, big smiling chaos. He's always operating on 11, but like, what did that sound like? So like when I go deeper, I just kind of sound like my dad, it just kind of falls into that spot. It's just also if you squint. But, one of his things is the voice crack. And as I'm doing that, I'm like, ooh, yeah, that feels good. That feels like an Absorbing Man thing. So just a little bit more evil, and was willing to steal little cookies from children. And so it's a very Warburton coded character. My brother is also an actor and voice actor, and he can do it pretty solid too. Them genes are strong.
Do you guys ever all three just do the voice like with your dad?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. What is it like working with the voice director?
It's wonderful. Like when I have a chance to be in the booth, it's always a joy. That's a delight. It's like a family now. It's getting in there and just telling everybody about the little one and my journey with him. It's wonderful. I feel very blessed to have the team that I do.
That's awesome. What is the most fun part of the process, and what's the most challenging part?
The most fun is it's a chance to really let loose, which you don't get to do with a lot of characters when you get into the booth. That's also the most challenging too, because he's such a heightened reality. Maintaining that, he is the most difficult character that I have right now, because it is not, I'm not exaggerating when I say I am sweating when I leave that booth usually, because you got to go all out. It's a lot easier to bring somebody down than it is to crank them up. So I try to keep it around that spot. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword. It lands well, it would seem, but it comes at a cost.
A physical cost. What are you most excited for fans to see when the show premieres?
Well, for me, to be part of Marvel is an absolute dream. So I love to be able to share that. So I'm excited to be like, hey, that's me. Yeah, I play Absorbing Man. It's what a fun, fascinating villain to play. And I get to do it in such a way that I get to help teach the youth what to do and what not to do. So to be able to be a part of, I don't know, how many childhoods is my efforts going to be a part of? It's such a, what a blessing. That's a really, really cool thing. First Marvel thing that I did was Guardians of the Galaxy, the animated series. And I remember walking into the booth, and I was surrounded by so many legends and voices of my childhood. Like James Arnold Taylor was there, Fred Tatasciore, Troy Baker was there. So we were antagonists. I was the main bad guy in that episode. And Eric Bauza was, and I'm just looking around. I'm like, oh my God. So I'm a new kid on the block, I better do my best to stand up. So, but this is my first time playing a main Marvel villain, one of the trifecta of baddies in this show. So this is really special, really, really special.
That's awesome. Talon, thank you so much for joining us and sharing Absorbing Man and your experiences with voice acting with all of us.
Thank you so much for having me. It has been my absolute pleasure, and it's just an honor and a privilege to be a part of the Marvel team.
Marvel's Iron Man and His Awesome Friends is now available on Disney Plus and Disney Junior.
And while a young Tony Stark saves the world alongside his awesome friends Riri Williams and Amadeus Cho on TV, in the pages of Marvel Comics, one of those friends is at the center of the current Imperial event saga.
That's right, Amadeus Cho isn't just another Hulk, but he definitely wasn't always navigating intergalactic politics. If you've never heard of Amadeus Cho, or you just need a refresher before diving into Imperial, we're here to tell you all about the character who has gone from brains to, quite literally, brawn.
Amadeus Cho made his premiere in Amazing Fantasy number 15. No, not the issue from 1963 where we first met Spider-Man, but the issue from 2005 where comic readers first met Amadeus as a 15-year-old Korean-American kid living in Arizona. It turns out the Prodigy's parents had an affinity for naming their kids after accomplished historical figures. Amadeus got his name from Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, and his twin sister is named Madame Curie Cho.
Now, why didn't they name her Marie, Madame Curie's actual first name? Maybe it was just so she had respect straight from go.
You will address me as Madam, yeah.
Madam, you are 4 years old, that's right. But it did leave her with the nickname Maddie.
As a teen, Amadeus entered and won an online quiz show called Brain Fight, hosted by the Excello Soap Corporation. He easily won the cash prize as well as the title of Mastermind Excello.
Winning Brain Fight not only earned Amadeus Cho a cool new title and a neat sum of cash, but also officially placed him as the 7th smartest person in the world. He'd hold this position until Lunella Lafayette, aka Moon Girl, appeared 10 years later and bumped him down to number 8.
It would drive me insane to know these rankings. If this is real and I want them, I would not want to know. Don't tell me.
Up at the top is like Reed Richards and and Moon Girl, and then I'm number 300,487,256.
Unfortunately for our guy, Amadeus, it also earned him the ire of the organizer behind Brain Fight, the hypercomputer brain genius known as Pythagoras Dupree.
It's a good name.
Yes. Dupree's real reason for holding the contest was to find other super geniuses and eliminate them. That's a guy who's mad about the list. And once Amadeus was identified, he set out to do just that. He hired henchmen to blow up Cho's house, which unfortunately killed his parents in the ensuing explosion.
After Amadeus was able to escape, he hops on his Vespa scooter and goes on the run. On his travels, he discovers a helpless coyote pup on the side of the road. Being a hero with a heart of gold and seeing a kindred spirit in the coyote, he adopts it on the spot and names it Kerberos.
You mean like the mythological multi-headed mutt that guards Hades?
Oh, I'm Evan Narcissus. I'm a writer. I'm very smart. Naturally, this name gets shortened to Kirby, and the coyote becomes Amadeus's pocket pup. Like a little guy that constantly pokes up his curious snoot out of Cho's signature jacket.
Amadeus then meets a mysterious man in a diner who turns out to be none other than Bruce Banner. There's no time for incredible introductions, though. Pythagoras Dupree's agents manage to track down Amadeus and pursue him and his coyote pup, this time from a helicopter. Cho uses his wits as well as the side view mirror of his scooter to reflect a targeting laser and prevents a direct hit from a rocket blast.
Well, prevents himself from getting the direct hit from the rocket blast. Banner, being nearby, takes the full force of the explosion and, you guessed it, turns into the Hulk. Bruce and Amadeus go on to form a fast friendship. Cho sees the humanity in Hulk and tries to convince him that he's more than just a marauding monster. Through extensive research, he proves to Hulk that even though the big green guy destroys tanks, helicopters, and other military assets in his many rage-fueled rampages, he manages to do so in a way that preserves the lives of the pilots inside.
Over the next 10 years, Amadeus Cho would make appearances alongside other comics legends like the winged wonder Archangel, the Greek goddess of wisdom Athena, and the mighty prince of power himself, Hercules. In fact, the bond between Amadeus and Hercules will become so strong that when Hercules perishes in battle, Amadeus travels the realms and rallies the gods to bring Hercules back to life.
While Cho's superpowered mind was always an asset to his allies, it wasn't until 2015, 10 years after his debut, that he gained a whole new set of superpowers along with his own series to match. Totally Awesome Hulk. So how did this scooter-speeding, coyote-cuddling genius go from Bruce Banner's bestie to a humongous heroic Hulk, you ask? Well, one day, Banner finds himself in a situation where the only option to protect a group of civilians is to absorb a deadly amount of radiation.
As one does.
It happens! And it causes a radioactive reaction with the gamma already inside of Banner, threatening to cause a Hulk-level meltdown. Amadeus uses nanites to absorb Hulk's powers, both curing Banner and simultaneously turning Cho into the totally awesome Hulk.
Cho claims to be a smarter, better, and well, awesomer Hulk. He even manages to keep his alter ego and emotions in check. In his mind, he sees himself as the one driving the car, while the Hulk is locked safely away in the trunk. While his rage may be tamped down, Cho Hulk, or Chulky, as She-Hulk likes to call him, is prone to arrogance and overconfidence.
The brash bruiser often gets distracted while on mission, sometimes flirting with civilians he's supposed to be saving while they're still in danger, sometimes flirting with his enemies, and sometimes flirting with She-Hulk herself. Luckily, his sister Maddie is usually there to support from the Meat Wagon, a flying food truck she's converted into a moving headquarters.
Top tier superhero headquarters,
So
I gotta
good.
say. If you gotta be mobile, make sure there's food on board and you're good.
Mm-hmm.
When she's not serving up delicious post-mission noodles, Maddie provides logistics and on-site comms in the form of her drone, nicknamed Kegger. Through Kegger, she often gives her brother Ami advice, as well as reminders to stay focused on the task at hand.
Now, Cho may think he has total control over his alternate persona, but obviously it takes more than a metaphorical car trunk to contain the strongest there is. Even though he becomes skilled at switching between his human and Hulk forms, Amadeus still struggles to stay in the driver's seat. At one point, he took a page from Banner's book and exiled himself into space to have some me time with the green guy and learn to keep his tendency to smash subdued.
If you have two personalities, is it ever truly me time? Isn't it us time?
Yeah, I don't have access to the smart people list, Evan. I don't have access to smart people. I can't put you on the list. Cho's adventures in space took him to the planet Sakaar, where, also like Banner Hulk before him, he became the warrior planet's champion. As you can imagine, this lifestyle suited the Hulk persona, and upon returning to Earth, it was Amadeus who seemed locked in the trunk of the car, while Hulk was smashing the gas pedal.
Luckily, Amadeus' allies were able to inject him with nanobots to counteract the original nanites Cho had used to absorb the gamma from Banner in the first place. Cho was able to retain some power and achieve a symbiosis with his Hulk. He then renamed himself Brawn and went on to become a member of the Champions, the Protectors, and the Agents of Atlas.
As Brawn, Amadeus Cho exists in a sort of halfway transformed state where he's bigger and greener, but not necessarily meaner.
He also developed a Hulkbuster armor that triggers whenever his emotions are heightened. This way, he can be as powerful as the Hulk without giving in to a potentially dangerous transformation.
While you might not like Amadeus Cho when he's angry, we think you'll like him when he's totally awesome. Early in the 2016 Black Panther series, written by Ta-Nehisi Coates, the Black Panther faces a mysterious woman named Zenzi, who has the ability to exploit and amplify someone's inner rage. She manipulates a Wakandan miners' strike into a full-blown riot, and in Black Panther number 2, T'Challa has managed to track Zenzi to the edges of the Wakandan border. As T'Challa takes out Zenzi's soldiers, he recalls a memory of his late uncle, Sion. He remembers how Sion ruled Wakanda in his stead until he came of age, and the advice that Sion shared with him on the day he became king. The majesty of a king lies in their mystique, not their might. When T'Challa confronts Zenzi for the first time, he recollects this advice and shares something else that he's since learned as king. My uncle Sion is dead now, murdered by another king. I loved him, but I wish he'd told me not just of the power of kings, but of the might of the people. I wish he'd warned me that they too have secrets. They too hold mysteries. They too possess a power all their own.
We're off next week, but we'll be back on September 3rd to chat about the new comic book series, Godzilla Destroys the Marvel Universe, with writer Jerry Duggan.
That's all for this week. Make sure to review, subscribe, and share with a friend.
This episode was hosted by Anthony Carboni and me, Evan Narcis, featuring Victoria Ying.
Our producers are Jasmine Estrada and Anita Flores. Additional writing by Louis Gaudio.
Our senior manager of audio production and development is Brad Barton. Our production manager is Emily Godfrey.
Mixed by Emma Munger.
Theme music by Ida Akbal.
Our executive producers are Larissa Rosen and Jesse Berger.
As always, thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.